In the lead of the story, ceasefire protest turns violent. KGO ABC7 anchor Dan Ashley tells his audience that victims say that what happened to them is part of an alarming trend.
That ugly incident that happened on Wednesday during a rally calling for a Gaza ceasefire resolution. As ABC 7 News reporter Lena Howland explains, it's part of what victims say is becoming an alarming trend.
Bomb Palestine! Bomb Palestine!
Pro-Palestinian demonstrators calling for peace were met with hate on Wednesday just outside of South San Francisco's Civic Center.
Put your mask down, you.
Wait, man, don't.
But the victims don't actually say that. Reporter Lena Howland says that.
Survival mode, like I need to document everything.
This woman is a representative for the group CA15 for ceasefire. She doesn't want us to use her name over safety concerns.
He verbally assaults everyone in our group. With me, he elbowed me in the face. He spit on a friend of mine. He pushed another friend of mine, and then my other friend got her head bumped into.
It escalated quickly and intensely, and among other things, in front of my 11-year-old child, which is extremely distressing and hard to process.
This organizer from Change SSF says she was concerned things were about to escalate in front of her son. Both women say the same man approached their groups last week, too.
Also really scared that it would escalate, especially with the comments that he's making, like you said, bomb Palestine, and talking about, have you ever killed someone, and all of these just very bizarre sentiments. I was just really concerned that he would have some kind of weapon on him, perhaps.
And gratuitously brings up a report from the Hamas-linked Council on American Islamic Relations.
And these hate crimes are part of a growing trend. Earlier this month, the Council on American Islamic Relations reported a 419% increase of hate crimes in 2023.
472 of those 607 complaints were reported in the final 3 months of the year. This confirms what we have long known about 2023, particularly those last 3 months, which is that the safety and comfort of Muslims and American Muslim communities across the country has been significantly threatened by the Israeli government's violence against Palestinians in Gaza and the United States' justification of that violence through the use of anti-Muslim and anti-Palestinian rhetoric.
Before taking an in-depth look at CAIR's report, let's gain a perspective on what violence looks like. Violence and hostility involve such actions as attacking police.
This morning, tensions over the Israel-Hamas war boiling over into clashes. Pro-Palestinian protesters calling for a ceasefire, clashing with police in front of the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Capitol Police say about 150 people gathered were illegally and violently protesting, which resulted in 6 officers being treated for injuries, including minor cuts, pepper spray, and being punched.
Blocking traffic.
Right now, Chopper 7 above what was once a large demonstration where traffic on DuSable Lakeshore Drive was blocked for hours in both directions. The protest here at one point turning violent. The cell phone video showing a conflict between Palestinian supporters and police officers near Buckingham Fountain.
Disrupting holiday celebrations.
Israel, you can't hide. We tried you with genocide.
Threatening to murder elected officials.
Hi there, my name is Riddhi Patel. I'm here to speak in support of the City Council introducing a ceasefire resolution, specifically the one United Liberation Front has drafted. I don't have faith that you'll do this. You guys are all horrible human beings, and Jesus probably would have killed you himself. And for that reason, you guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
Threatening to negatively influence elections.
As American Muslims, we have suffered under many presidents through different types of policies. But this particular is a big red line. We believe by not electing Biden and him losing, it will reset the political discourse on the American Muslim vote.
No votes, no ceasefire, no votes. No votes in Michigan, no votes in Arizona, no votes in Georgia, no votes in Nevada, no votes in Wisconsin, no votes in Pennsylvania, no votes in Ohio, no votes for you anywhere. If you do not call for a ceasefire now, we will make our voices heard more and more. In November, we remember. In November, we remember.
Engaging in mob action.
Pro-Hamas protesters around the country have intimidated Jews, they've blocked highways, they've obstructed access to airports and other transportation hubs. But one thing they would definitely never do, that would exceed the bounds of decency even for them, is protest one of the most important cancer hospitals in the United States.
We will continue to march as we talk about another complicit institution.
Okay, new low.
And supporting a terrorist organization.
Yeah, Rob, Jewish advocacy groups, the Anti-Defamation League, and the White House are all condemning comments made by CAIR Executive Director Nihad Awad during a November conference here in Chicago. However, the head of the Council on American-Islamic Relations is responding to the criticism, saying the comments were taken out of context. The executive director of the Council on American-Islamic Relations, Nihad Awad, is on the defense today, following controversial remarks he made during a convention last month in Chicago. Video of the comments were posted online by the Middle East Media Research Institute, a nonprofit which claims to help bridge the language gap between the Middle East and the West. He said in part,
"Yes, I was happy to see people breaking the siege and throwing down the shackles of their own land and walk free into their lands that they were not allowed to walk in."
Edward Ahmad Mitchell serves as the Council on American Islamic Relations National Deputy Director.
So the solution to this crisis is clear: in the occupation, a Palestinian state based on their original borders with.
There are 4 themes in CAIR's report. These are all isolated incidents. They are not connected to anything beyond themselves. They are not connected to any movements or internationally financed campaigns. No one is supporting these incidents. There are no marches, college courses, or riots in their support. None of these incidents are caused by Israeli violence. CAIR thinks Islamophobia is like shingles and is just waiting for a trigger to erupt.
Islamophobia is just sort of waiting for a switch to flip. And we're sort of right back to where we were when, for instance, Donald Trump announced that he was planning on banning Muslims from this country.
But the triggers are Islamic violence, like ISIS.
The latest ISIS video delivered a clear and direct threat to Christians in the Middle East.
You will not have safety, even in your dreams, until you embrace Islam.
Then militants carried out what appears
Hamas
to NBC News, saying it shows a terrorist using a heavy machine gun to mow down survivors fleeing from the Supernova Music Festival.
9/11. The Boston bombings, etc.
The attack appears timed for maximum impact.
These things are being handled. Many, if not most, of the offenders were arrested, charged, and even in custody. Very few people are physically hurt. Despite the title of the report, almost no one is hurt. Most of these incidents are people getting in trouble for supporting Hamas at school, work, or in public.
California. A man allegedly tried to murder members of the Muslim community at a park in Rancho Cordova in August. The man reportedly tried to run over Muslim community members of South Asian heritage while yelling racial slurs and allegedly threatening to shoot and bomb them. The suspect was reportedly arrested on 2 felonies and a hate crime charge.
This man may be mentally ill. Just hours earlier, he had a disturbance at a liquor store, is a registered sex offender, and with the help of his family, surrendered to police 12 hours after driving through the park.
Before the incident, the sheriff's office says Avery caused a disturbance at a nearby liquor store. Avery is also listed as a sex offender on the National Registry.
He was yelling racial slurs at them, threatening to shoot them, threatening to bomb them. Obviously very concerning. Our deputies responded within minutes, and by then he'd already driven off.
No one was hurt. The sheriff's office identified 33-year-old Robert Avery from Orangevale as the suspect. Around 12 hours later, the sheriff's office says Avery turned himself in with help from his family. Terrifying moments caught on camera. Video shared by the Council on Islamic Relations shows a man driving his car.
It's scary. You don't really see this level of aggravated kind of attack on people. You know, hate crimes have been on the rise. We've been telling people, to be safe, be careful. But it's really scary when it really happens.
This is an isolated incident that happened in August and is in no way caused by Israeli violence.
California. An Arab Muslim student at Stanford University was reportedly targeted in a hit-and-run on campus in November. The driver had reportedly made eye contact with the student and accelerated and hit him, after which the driver reportedly yelled, "F you and your people." The student, who was hospitalized following the incident, reports having seen the driver at a pro-Palestinian rally in the month before the incident. The Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office reportedly opened a hate crime investigation into the incident.
After days of investigating, the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office says they're looking for this unidentified man. The suspect is believed to have committed a hate crime after deputies say he intentionally ran over a Stanford student named Abdul Wahab Omira in a crosswalk on campus last Friday.
He's recovering. He's in good spirits. I went and saw him in the hospital. He was in a lot of pain physically.
Authorities say Omira believes he was intentionally targeted because of a shirt he was wearing which had Arabic writing on it. The sheriff's office says the suspect also shouted racially motivated things at Omira before hitting him.
He said he recognized that person as someone who had antagonized him and antagonized others during protests here at Stanford for the Palestinian cause.
The students who are out here say they're not just worried about their classmate who was hit. They also tell me they have concerns that this could happen again and to somebody else. Those fears could be well-founded.
We're tracking an over 200% increase in complaints that we have received in the last 30 days as compared to years past.
Hamas violence and support for Hamas here at home might be the cause of this incident.
We're tracking an over 200% increase in complaints that we have received in the last 30 days as compared to years past.
It is important to remember that CAIR's hate crime statistics are not coming from the FBI or local police. They are CAIR's own numbers. In this press conference about their previous report, Empowerment of Hate, you can hear them say that they make their own numbers regarding hate crimes.
Hate crimes are a subset of bias incidents in which there was some element of the incident that could face federal or state hate crimes charges. We don't always go with what the prosecutors say. Oftentimes what we find is prosecutors, because it's difficult to meet hate crime standards, will sometimes prosecute things we know. For instance, someone was attacked and beaten while the perpetrator yelled anti-Muslim things. Sometimes that will just be charged as battery so that the prosecutor can make their case. We would count that as a hate crime no matter how it was charged.
District of Columbia. A Muslim Palestinian woman was reportedly threatened by a man while riding the D.C. Metro in October. The woman had been riding the Metro on her way to a demonstration for Palestinian rights when a man reportedly asked her, "How'd you like to lose your life?" On video, the man
All new at 11, this is video captured by a Metro rider. It could lead to hate crime charges. The woman who took this video says a man threatened her life because she's Muslim.
The Council on American Islamic Relations is condemning D.C. Metro Police's lack of a response after a man threatened a Muslim woman with beheading. The woman was on the Orange Line with some acquaintances on their way to last night's Palestinian human rights protest when the man began yelling profanities and threats at her. Witnesses say the man was also armed, but police not too sure about that.
Again, the same questions. Are you sure there was a gun? What color was it? Are you sure you actually saw a gun? Just really belittling the entire situation and the threats that were made, and going as far to say that my life was not threatened because he did not explicitly say the words, "I am going to kill you."
CAIR sent a letter to the police department calling on them to identify and arrest the man.
The man was challenging the woman about her support for Hamas, and the police are not considering it a hate incident.
District of Columbia. A Palestinian staff member at American University reportedly received a hateful death threat slipped under his office door in October. The note said, in part, "You might get lucky with a missile and meet your Allah sooner. Death to all Palestinians." A complaint to CAIR offices reports that the staff member has not received adequate security and protection from American University administrators following the incident. The American University Police Department and federal law enforcement are reportedly investigating the threat.
That's all, folks.
Somehow, after CAIR tells us they have evidence of a deluge of hate in this country, we are left expecting more. Remember that with over 8,000 complaints to choose from, this is what CAIR shares with us.
Illinois. In October, 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy Wadia Al-Fahmy was stabbed and murdered by his family's landlord in Chicago. According to his mother, who was also attacked, the landlord yelled, "You Muslims must die," before attempting to choke and stab her. After she attempted to call for law enforcement, she found that the landlord had stabbed her 6-year-old son to death. The landlord has been indicted by a grand jury on first-degree murder, attempted murder, battery, and hate crime charges.
Today, the Council on American Islamic Relations is hosting that vigil here at the courthouse for the boy. They say they want it to be a moment of remembrance and solidarity for him. 6-year-old Wadia Al-Fahmy and his mother, 32-year-old Haneen Shaheen, were both stabbed dozens of times by their landlord, 71-year-old Joseph Shuba, in October. The boy died. His mother survived. According to police and the boy's mother, he attacked them because of their Muslim faith amid the ongoing war abroad. He now faces 8 charges, including first-degree murder, attempted murder, and hate crime. He pleaded not guilty in October. Today, he will be back for his pretrial at 9:30. The vigil expected to start here at 8 this morning.
Wadia Al-Fahmy was murdered on October 13th, nearly 2 weeks before Israel responded to the attack by Hamas. This is a tragic story, but the fact remains that Wadia was killed in response to Hamas violence. What happened to drive this man temporarily insane? Even CAIR's Chicago Executive Director Ahmed Rehab noted that previously Joseph Chuba had been kind to the boy. In fact, Wadia's father said Chuba brought the boy toys, that he even built him a treehouse and allowed him to swim in a makeshift pool, Rehab said. It wasn't until Chuba started watching the news and hearing the statements that something changed. Chuba's wife told investigators that he listens to conservative talk radio on a regular basis and became obsessed with the war between Hamas and Israel. The war between Hamas and Israel began on October 7th, but Israel did not respond until October 27th, nearly 2 weeks after the murder of Wadia Al-Fahmy. Joseph Chuba was obsessed by the news of unspeakable atrocities of mass murder, torture.
A child piece remain, and but if you look at the CT scan, look, Danny, you can see here 2 spines, another one, you see 2 spines, and Dr. Nachman, can you show, and 2 ribs, 2 sets of ribs, and this is an adult with a child. They're sitting together, and the adult is hugging the child, and Dr. Nachman thinks it might, this metal wire that you see here might use to tie them to
2 bodies together.
And they were burned like this.
Rape, the devil took over me. I laid her down, started undressing her, and I did what I did. What did you do? I slept with her. You did not sleep with her. Sleep is to sleep. So what did you do? I raped her. Kidnapping.
Yeah, really upsetting video that, as you mentioned, is from October 7th, just being released now by the hostage families. They say because they want to increase pressure on the Israeli government to bring their family members home. They are really trying to show what the stakes are here. And the stakes, as evident in the video, are the way that these women were treated on October 7th. We see them handcuffed, bloodied, clearly severely beaten, as these Hamas terrorists are threatening them, screaming at them, telling them that they may kill them. We see these women pleading essentially for their lives, saying that they know people in Palestine, trying to really show that they should be sympathetic figures for these people who've taken them hostage. And in one case, one of the Hamas operatives tells them, "Our brothers died because of you. We will kill you."
He killed a little boy because of Hamas's actions, not because of Israeli violence or anything else. This is not to justify his heinous crime, but merely to set the record straight in the face of CAIR's cynical use of it. Wadea al-Fayyoumi is not representative of the state of Muslims in America. In reality, the director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, testified before Congress that Jews, who make up less than 3% of the U.S. population, are the target of over 50% of all religiously motivated hate crimes reported to the Bureau.
I think Americans need to understand is how wildly disproportionate, if you could ever use a word like proportionate in something like this, that is. 2.4% of the American public, 60% of religious-based hate crimes. This is a group that has the outrageous distinction of being uniquely targeted, and they need our help.
No hate crime is justified, but the idea that Muslims are uniquely targeted and victimized in the U.S. is propaganda fiction. In the 33 years since the FBI has been keeping records, Muslims have never entered the top 5 groups that are victims of hate crimes in America. Instead, the principal victim groups are consistently Black Americans, male homosexuals, Asians, Jews, and white people. That's right, according to the FBI, even white people consistently receive more hate crimes in America than Muslims. That is how ridiculous CAIR's claims are.
He was less worse to his mom. Mom, I'm fine. You know what? He is fine. He's in a better place.
Illinois, a man reportedly threatened to shoot 2 Muslim men after allegedly shouting anti-Muslim statements in October. The man reportedly approached one of the victims, who had arrived in his vehicle to an apartment complex to meet with a friend, and began shouting obscenities that targeted his Muslim faith and telling him he didn't belong in the country. The man then allegedly punched the first victim's car window before going into the lobby of the apartment building, where he encountered the second victim and threatened to beat him. A short time later, one of the victims was sitting on the bench outside the building when the man reportedly lifted one side of the bench such that the victim fell off. The man reportedly told the 2 victims that he called 4 of his friends to come and shoot them. A hate crime charge was reportedly brought against the man in October.
Tonight, a man is charged with hate crime after he allegedly threatened to shoot 2 men who are Muslim. Investigators say this happened on Tuesday morning at an apartment complex in Lombard. Leah Hope has more on the disturbing allegations.
Lombard police investigated an incident at the Point West Apartments off Finley Road Tuesday evening. The result, Larry York was arrested at a bar yesterday, charged with hate crimes. The DuPage County State's attorney alleges York was verbally abusive and threatened to shoot 2 Muslim men at the apartment building. The state's attorney tells us the incident began with one man sitting outside in his car waiting for a friend, and York punched his window. Then York went into the building and threatened a second person, all while telling the victims they didn't belong in this country. Additionally, the state's attorney alleges York picked up a bench where one of the men was seated, causing him to fall to the ground. York faces 2 counts of a hate crime that's a Class 4 felony. Today, a judge granted the state's motion to keep York in custody before trial. York is due back in court November 2nd.
The Chicago chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, releasing a statement on these charges saying, quote, "This is a standard to follow if we are to stand a chance of deterrence. CAIR Chicago has been inundated with hate incidents not seen since 9/11. There is widespread, palpable apprehension in the community.
This is an isolated incident not connected to anything beyond the attacker.
New Jersey, a Princeton University staffer allegedly assaulted protesters for Palestinian human rights in October. The staff member was reportedly seen yelling at protesters, making obscene gestures, and filming them. She is also seen grabbing another protester's phone and running off with it, apparently pulling the protester's hair in the process.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Yo, I got that on video.
Palestine will be free! Israel will be free from terrorism! Free Palestine! Here! Decapitated Jewish babies in their beds! Free from what? Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From who? From Hamas? Free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free.
Again, another incident not connected to anything except opposition to support for Hamas.
New York. In 2016, an Uber driver was reportedly attacked by his passengers, two intoxicated men. One passenger punched the driver in the jaw and both hurled expletives and racial slurs at him. As a result of the attack, the client suffered a fractured elbow and a dislocated neck, among other injuries. In May 2023, after years of litigation, and with the assistance of co-counsel at Kravitz, Swain and Moore, LLP, Karen Y secured a six-figure settlement for the client.
2016? CAIR should have plenty of material to choose from in 2023. This entry should be dismissed out of hand.
Pennsylvania. In October, a man reportedly brandished a firearm against Muslims at a pro-Palestine protest at the footsteps of the Pennsylvania state capitol. The rally had been organized by the Central Pennsylvania Committee of Masjid, a network of mosques and Islamic organizations. The man reportedly approached the crowd in his vehicle, started yelling racial slurs, and then pointed a gun at the protesters. The suspect has reportedly been taken into custody and faces a felony count of ethnic intimidation and misdemeanor charges of making terroristic threats and simple assault by physical menace.
That is what happened. The protesters were blithely supporting Hamas when someone pulled out a gun. He has been charged, but no thank yous to the police are coming from CAIR.
North Carolina. A Muslim member of the North Carolina Democratic Party was reportedly subjected to Islamophobic remarks by other party members. Following his public support of Palestinian human rights in 2022, other party members reportedly spread Islamophobic remarks about him, reportedly including the claim that he may be an Iranian spy. In early 2023, the man made a complaint to party leadership, which he claims was not addressed in a timely manner. In late 2023, CAIR sent a letter on his behalf, requesting that party leadership investigate and address his complaint.
Another irrelevant entry from CAIR that is not part of its 8,000 complaints in 2023. It is from 2022.
Ohio. A man reportedly targeted Arab, Palestinian, and Muslim students at Cleveland State University for their pro-Palestine human rights activism in early 2023. The man had previously been accused of reportedly cyber-harassing Palestinian students or students with pro-Palestinian views the previous year, after which a CSU student reportedly filed a protection order against him, which was granted. However, in January, the man reportedly returned to campus and stole the banner belonging to the CSU student organization Students for Palestinian Human Rights. He was also arrested by CSU police in January for reportedly violating the protection order. In February, he was reportedly banned from the campus, and in July, he reportedly entered a plea to reduce his charges and was sentenced to probation, a community orientation program, and anger management classes.
This is about Alexander Popeviker, and here he is carrying an Israeli flag through a small Palestinian demonstration at Cleveland State University. And that is what he does. He goes around provoking the Hamasniks at CSU. Apparently, they only like it when they are the ones being provocative. In fact, when he uploaded a video of two nasty girls pouring soda by a group of signs Pope Vicar had made about the hostages held by Hamas, the girls filed a police report. Apparently, they were receiving a lot of hateful comments online.
Oh, this is actually...
I can film you too!
I think this is actually kind of amusing.
But Pope Vicar kept at it and stole a banner that showed the country of Israel covered in the Palestinian colors. As an act of civil disobedience, I have removed the terrorist banner that erases the Jewish state that was displayed at Cleveland State University Student Center. This incitement to annihilation of Israel should have never been permitted at CSU. The pan-Arab Nazi flag was designated as a terrorist symbol by Israel. Is the CSU really in solidarity with this? And that's when they arrested Pope Vicar, and he was sentenced to 10 days in jail for stealing the annihilationist banner. His charges were eventually dismissed, but he has been banned from campus as persona non grata. And that's it. This funny, brave little man is part of CAIR's evidence of a crisis level of hate directed against Palestinians.
Ohio. In October, a man driving a truck reportedly physically and verbally assaulted participants in a pro-Palestine march in Columbus. While members of student organizations and community supporters conducted a peaceful march in downtown Columbus, the man reportedly began shouting obscenities about Palestinians and then swerved out of his lane to hit a demonstrator on a bike. A suspect was reportedly taken into custody.
That is what happened. The protesters might even have had a permit to block traffic, but a man sideswiped a bicyclist. Reports suggest he was not seriously hurt. The man was identified and charged, but still no gratitude from CAIR. Many people might conclude that this assault was a reaction to public support for Hamas in this country, but CAIR is again trying to blame Israel for this. CAIR's report is an embarrassment for this organization. More than half of its evidence of hate crimes in 2023 are either irrelevant or not considered to be hate crimes by the police. None of these incidents seem to be inspired by Israeli violence, but rather by Hamas violence. And this is the cream of the crop out of more than 8,000 incidents? Let's look further into CAIR's report. Despite CAIR's claims on an overwhelming number of complaints, they include incidents from previous years, such as 2019, 2021, and 2020. There were a concerning number of attacks on mosques last year, but all of them were committed by mentally ill people.
Mohammed Bekit is accused of using feces to write the word Allah on a sign in front of the South Patterson Elementary School.
Court records also show that the suspect has a history of mental illness in 3 cases over the last several years. Petitioners asked that he could be committed for his mental illness.
Sharon Yu looked into the case and found this is much more complex than an arson incident. Sharon?
Well, Julie, that's exactly right. Jackie Little's criminal history reveals the tumultuous mental health history he's had and shows that he's been in and out of custody over the past several years.
Murakezi was in court this afternoon. He remains locked up with bail set at $50,000. He was just charged with property damage in Hennepin County for breaking into a Minneapolis Catholic school where he was allegedly found sleeping in the elevator.
Neighbors and worshipers alike are frustrated by what they've seen at Masjid Allah. On Friday night, a man with paint and a brush vandalized the house of worship at 74th Avenue and Limekiln Pike.
This is a gentleman who we were able to catch on camera. You can see his face very clearly.
Left behind were words and symbols associated with various religions on outer walls, steps, and doors of the mosque. Mikhail Shabazz is one of the imams of the mosque, which was a target 3 years ago.
This is the second time that something like this has happened. Before, there was a mentally disturbed individual who basically came and broke the glass in one of the doors of here.
Police are now looking into the motivation behind this latest incident.
We don't know if it was a hate crime or whether or not this person or these persons were mentally disturbed.
CAIR brings up the King Khalid Mosque in North Carolina, which has been closed since the pandemic. It is the property of Shaw University and does not belong to CAIR, which wants the mosque reopened. This is not a hate incident.
It leads to speculation that anti-Muslim bias may be playing a role here. And maybe it's not. But in the absence of a good explanation, it leaves you to think about the worst possible explanation. So this is why it's so important for Shaw University to come to the table, dialogue about this in an honest way, and then do the right thing. The end result of this is the same. The mosque should be reopened.
An 8th grade student from Corona del Mar Middle and High School was allegedly suspended for saying Free Palestine in November.
This is not a hate incident.
Oklahoma. In September, Oklahoma State Superintendent announced an ongoing partnership with Prager University PragerU. PragerU is known for being a right-wing educational website that has produced videos spreading anti-Muslim rhetoric and conspiracy theories. In one such video, the host reportedly claims that Islam is not a religion of peace.
PragerU Kids has topics from history, civics, financial literacy, and Bible stories, created in 5-minute colorful cartoons.
I love some of these Prager Kid videos where they're really talking to kids about, using actual quotes from the founders, using actual quotes from people throughout American history.
But some are critical of the materials, calling them revisionist, misleading, and dangerous. Like Adam Soltani, the executive director for the Oklahoma chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations.
Not entirely accurate and far from reality.
Who say they want Walters to reject the platform. It has videos titled, "Is Islam a Religion of Peace?" and "What Radical Islam and the Woke Have in Common."
And we definitely do not want to see public schools engaging in what seems to be a very skewed and slanted presentation of information that they need to learn about, but done in the appropriate manner.
CAIR, known for being an advocacy organization that shills for radical Islamists, partnered with the San Diego Unified School District on a so-called anti-bullying campaign. What resulted from this campaign was significant changes in curriculum that pushes Islamic beliefs coming from an organization that has ties to terror. With me now, President and Chief Counsel of the Freedom of Conscience Defense Fund, Charles Lamondre.
The district's own statistics from this past fall don't justify singling out Muslims for protection.
There were only 7 incidents of bullying in the entire city, which represented 130,000 students. And of that 7 instances of bullying, they didn't even break it down by religious affiliation. So we don't know if any of those students were Muslims.
According to the Associated Court transcript, this is one of the texts CAIR wants to use in the school system, a justification for the terror attacks of 9/11. And this should not surprise us. CAIR wants schools to stop teaching that Islam has anything to do with 9/11.
Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace, everyone. This is Huzaifa Shabazz, National Research Coordinator at CAIR National. Today's topic is about CAIR's school resource document. 2 weeks ago, CAIR issued a school resource document.
CAIR's recommendations can be summed up succinctly. Islam has nothing to do with 9/11.
CAIR designed the school resource
CAIR's
document
reliable sources include the Southern Poverty Law Center, Al Jazeera, CNN, and CAIR themselves.
Reliable sources. For example, avoid using inaccurate and inflammatory terms such as Islamic terrorists, jihadists, or radical Islamic terrorists. We wouldn't want that with any other faith. We wouldn't want, saying Christian we don't hear Christian terrorists, for example, in classroom, right? And so it's a double standard, and we wouldn't want that with any other faith, right? And so there's nothing Islamic about terrorism, right? There's nothing radical about Islam, and so it's really important to stay away from these terms because it brings up a lot of the old Orientalist tropes about Islam and Muslims and associates it with terrorism. Number 9, when discussing the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, the invasion of Afghanistan, Iraq, the Iraq War, and Guantanamo Bay also include the discussion of bigotry and hate crimes that impacted Sikh Americans, Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, and other minorities in the days, months, and years after the attack.
9/11 is treated like a natural disaster, not a declaration of war, and it had nothing to do with Islam.
It was hate, not religion, that motivated the horrible acts of September 11th.
In November, a Muslim teacher was placed on administrative leave reportedly due to her email signature tagline, which expressed support for Palestinians.
Her email signature was, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." This is inappropriate for work, and she was suspended from her job at the school. This is not hate.
Michigan, in April, a female Muslim student was reportedly rejected from an internship interview after declining to shake hands with the CEO of PGF Technology Group Inc. due to her religious beliefs. The student had reportedly refused to shake hands with the CEO because of her sincerely held religious beliefs.
Again, this is not hate, but is definitely ridiculous.
Minnesota, in October, 2 Muslim students at Edina High School reported that they were suspended for 3 days following their participation in a walkout for Palestinian human rights. The students reportedly participated in chanting common pro-Palestinian.
Is filing a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights after they were reportedly suspended for 3 days, not because they protested or walked out of school, but because of the chant that they used.
Edina High School authorities and school authorities accused them of being anti-Semitic on the basis of using the chant during the walkout of "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free."
During the news conference, the attorney you heard from there also took issue with the Edina schools releasing a statement after the October 7th attack on Israel, acknowledging Jewish students' pain and trauma. But he said they did not say anything about the difficulty faced by Muslim students after the bombing campaign and loss of life began in Gaza.
This is inappropriate conduct at school and, again, is not hate.
Florida, in October, the Chancellor of the State University System of Florida issued an order deactivating Students for Justice in Palestine chapters across the state.
Students for Justice in Palestine is a thuggish, pro-Hamas group, and banning them from campus is not hate.
California, a newly arrived Afghan Muslim teenager was shot twice and hospitalized after a police shooting in January.
You're right there. Have a seat. Yeah. The greater Afghan Muslim community announced a list of demands for the Tracy Police Department to be better prepared to handle situations like the incident Friday, where an officer shot a 17-year-old Afghan refugee.
Use of force policy needs to be updated. They need to implement de-escalation trainings, improve de-escalation training and strategies. We are demanding that they implement improved training on the use of non-lethal force. And we are demanding that they implement improved cultural sensitivity training.
Body cam footage shows Officer Carlos Ramirez responding to a fight between a 17-year-old and his family. The video shows there's a language barrier with someone failing to sit down as ordered.
Have a seat right there. Have a seat.
Yeah.
My brother. Fine. Sit down. Hey, put down the knife. Put down the knife.
You can see the teen gets off the bike and fails to listen. Ramirez shoots the teen twice. Now, groups working closely with the Muslim community are asking why.
We believe that the officer should have used other actions other than potentially deadly force to ensure the safety of all those involved.
The Council on American Islamic Relations and supporters of the family stood outside City Hall calling for reform.
The teenage boy who was shot on Friday arrived in this country 2 months ago with his family from Afghanistan.
Ring video camera from a neighboring home captured the tense moments that prompted a call to 911 by a neighbor. This was minutes before the first officer arrived on scene. Police say the video shows a fight between the subject and his own family.
Started with the brother, carried on to a fight with the father, at which point you can see in the video the suspect strikes the mother, knocks her down, strikes the sister, and then strikes at the father with the knife.
The family attorney says the teen is recovering at the hospital after undergoing 2 surgeries. Some of the demands from the civil rights activists include improving de-escalation strategies and use of non-lethal force, while also implementing cultural sensitive training.
And so on. All of CAIR's reports are like this. CAIR's hate reports just do not stand up to scrutiny. CAIR's reports are not meant to be read, and Fatal, the resurgence of anti-Muslim hate, is one of the best examples of this basic fact.